And welcome back, everybody, to Meta HSE for the Victorian League of Legends Grand Final. I'm still Midnight, still joined by Mendrix.
Mendrix.
Shut up.
Mendrix, Midnight.
You heard nothing.
Am I Midnight?
You heard nothing. And we are getting ready for game number 2 in our best of 3 series here between Melbourne High School and De La Salle. After De La Salle put on a pretty dominant performance in the first game, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, and you could really just look at it in terms of their strategies, the way they played. Everything was controlled. They took good execution. They made sure they knew that the fights was going to be the case. I can't say the same for Melbourne High. So I really would like for them to just sort of shore up that decision-making, make sure when they do make those macro plays, really do take into account their position in the game. If you're behind, you don't need that second dragon. You can trade top, send 3 members there, kill the top laner, take the tower, look to go for the next dragon afterwards when you actually have the achievable resources to do so. So really looking for Melbourne High School to begin to move to that little bit of a higher level so that way they can match De La Salle. Because right now, De La Salle's definitely lifted their game for these finals.
Yeah, and it's areas that, so for example, we talked about off stream, or what are the areas looking like? I think one of the big things is just in the laning itself. If you're going to lock in stuff like the Graves and the Riven, you really need to have, some really good showings out of those solo laners. Otherwise, it just feels a little, especially the Riven, feels lackluster in ways. Like, sure, I'm not saying James played the Riven poorly, because getting solo lanes in laning phase isn't the easiest thing to ask of, especially in a tournament-like setting. But if that's the case, then maybe the Riven just isn't the right call for the team.
Right? 100% agree, Midnight. And part of it is because when you do pick those particular champions, those laners need to have a showing. You're sacrificing team utility for that laning power. That's specifically what you're giving up there. Imagine if you had an Orianna, or imagine if you had a Victor in place there instead of the Graves. When those sieges start to come in, all of a sudden when you've got wave clear, that locks down, buys your team so much more time. So even if you are behind in the same case with a different champion, that actually ends up feeling as a much better team presentation going forward. And it actually means that there's a chance for your team to get back into it. But when you have the Riven picked, when you have the Graves picked, that really begins to hit at your chances of winning in those later stages of the game, because you miss out on that team utility. And of course, that does allow the other members of the team to get into it. And when I look at it again, their other team had those sort of compositions put in play. I mean, when you look at it, there's fantastic wave clear coming across the board from the Volibear, who does go with a little bit of damage. Cannon is a little bit risky, but when you're ahead, it's fine to jump in and do stuff. They had other little tidbits of utility that just didn't seem to be in the case there. So I didn't even talk about the drafting. You mentioned drafting, and I was like, nah, I kind of just want the execution to be right. But it's kind of true when you say, hey, drafting sometimes does matter when you're looking at your player's performance.
Exactly. So we'll see how that rocks. As obviously the game should be starting soon. I'm not sure entirely what the delay is, but hopefully it won't be much, as we'll be diving into our game. So, based on what we saw in the first game, Mendrix, I'm gonna pick your brain a little bit here, because of course you are the color. You are expected to be the bigger brain than I.
Pick right away. Let's see how we go here. I call me the teacher. Why not?
How dare you steal my role from me? So, looking at specifically drafting.
Yes.
What would you, Shane? Obviously, I know you maybe have a little bit of an idea of what the champion pools of the Melbourne High School lineup looks like, but obviously not as in depth as the players themselves for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But what areas would you maybe swap out completely? For example, you already hinted that you probably wouldn't have the Graves like we saw in game 1.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Graves is fine as long as you have something to make up for it elsewhere, right? So, for example, if you're looking for something that does have a little bit of extra wave clear, you can look to pick up something like Alessandra in the top lane that gives you that wave clear back, right? That's the idea. There needs to be a give and take somewhere in relation to it. So if you do want to run the Graves, and you need to just have something, or for example, a tank that has the ability to possibly look into that and put something into it as well, not a Riven as well. You need to have utility in those specific spots. I think they had the right idea of saying, you know what, we've got our tank obviously going to be in the Nautilus. That's the idea right there, which means you do need to have some sort of other form of utility. And they had their AP threat in the Lilia. So you can see they had the right makings and the ideas of saying, here's the AP threat, here's the AD threat, here's the tank. But one of the things that you really need to take into account, okay, cool, where's actually your pick? Well, okay, cool, your pick's going to be in Nautilus, but he's also the tank. I think it makes things a bit harder for the tank to actually be the pick and the tank at the same time. Because typically what's going to happen is that what you want is that pick to come in, also do a little bit of damage as well. So you've missed out on pick. All right, cool. Well, at least you got wave clear. No, you don't have wave clear. I'd love for them to actually just pick up a champion that does have that wave clear. Anything. You could have a Valkos, for God's sake. Just something that has the ability just to completely move it away. Hell, if you really want to have an aggressive laner on the top side, you could even have a Rumble, because then at least then you can use the ultimate to really clear away those problem situations and stop sieges from happening. So you can really start to change things up a little bit. I think you just need to make sure that when you do pick your team composition, make sure that you're going to have one aggressive laner. That's going to be your A team, right? That's going to be your A member. That's your star player. That's going to be the one that's going to be playing something like the Riven, something like the Graves, and then everyone else is built around that. That's what I really want to do when I look at this drafting as well.
Yeah, well, let's find out. Obviously, we've got a few ideas about what the drafting could be done to change it up, to give Melbourne High School a better chance in the second game of this best of 3 series, potentially the last, if Melbourne High School cannot fight it back well enough to survive. Time to find out. Is taking a look at the banning phase so far. I must say, I love the Kennen adaptation there. Xanad on the Kennen did such a good job, being so annoying in those team fights.
And does seem to be ban out Xanad is the name of the game. Xanad is probably one of the highest rated members of the team here, available for dealer sale. So it makes sense that you want to really take a nice good pinch away from that champion pool. But at the same time, when you do start to focus on that one play that has, the most amount of that has the highest capability of play, they typically have a deeper pool than they're probably letting on. So I imagine Xanad has probably got something in return. I'd love to see if this is going to be another mid lane ban, really just targeting it away, or if they wanted to get rid of a priority pick for one of the other players as well. And it looks like it's going to be that Viego again. So the big change here, of course, is the inclusion of that Kennen early to stop a first pick from coming across.
Yeah, and I must say, I'm a huge fan of that one. Of course, keeping the Viego on the list, I think, is necessary. Viego is insanely strong right now, but the Thresh that was banned in the last game, Yoon is considering it, and I think absolutely you should join yourself in the cult of Thresh.
I would love to be a scenario where they pick up the Thresh, get the Aphelios again.
Oh, no way.
So that way they would have one, the super prior bot lane. I really do hope that dealer sale identifies this and decides to actually keep that apart and does decide to pick Aphelios for 200 years here. And, I mean, considering, the name is 200 years, I kind of hope that it's going to be Aphelios pick here as well. I imagine Yoshiki is going to pick it up in that second iteration there if this is going to be a blitz. And it looks like they're actually planning to take as well in the process of this. So not only are they picking something a little bit different, but they're also pinching the pool. And wow, the Blitzcrank as well. This makes things interesting.
Yeah, I quite like the Blitzcrank as an answer here, because the whole idea behind Thresh Aphelios is that Thresh makes up for Aphelios' greatest weakness, the lack of mobility. But you don't need mobility when Blitzcrank pulls you in, knocked you up, and whoever the AD carry is, it might be Graves, it might be someone else, has just slammed you into the dirt. So I don't mind it as a sort of counter, say, hey, pick your hyper carry that has the mobility. Blitzcrank is ready and waiting for you here. As Volleyball locked in here for the side of Melbourne High School. And
well, you pinch your champions, we pinch yours. A little bit of a change across there on the side of that. I do like this as well. It does change things up to the sense that it says, hey, these are priority picks in their own right. Volleyball has been a meta champion, in my opinion, coming across here. So taking that away while at the same time maintaining a little bit of strength of your priority lanes at the same time is pretty good, specifically when your team or your opposing team does decide to actually pick a little bit of a off-meta champion, which of course is going to be the Blitzcrank. Of course, Blitzcrank is going to be a very specific choice, perhaps to stop an Aphelios pick from coming across, but at the same time, I feel it is something that they're having a little bit of fun with as well.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have some fun with it, right? Like, yes, it is a competition. Yes, obviously, you want to take this game to some levels of making sure you're not just throwing for the sake of throwing, but obviously, have some fun with it. Like, what's the point of playing games if you're not having fun? It just seems a little bit ridiculous to me.
Oh, absolutely, right? At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's all about the passion. It's about getting in there. I mean, I do have a bit of connection with some of the pro players out there, and sometimes they do feel, hey, like, game burnout is a real thing. They love the game, but when you play it 12 hours out, day in, day out, it does start. Of course, being able to play, a few serious games and then directly afterwards follow up with a little bit of fun is completely healthy.
I was going to ask, what is your a little bit of fun game, but I'm pretty sure I already know the answer to that. Is it World of Warcraft?
Mate, don't. It's my guilty pleasure. Okay, like it's. Look, you know, I played Classic back in the day. It is just a massive nostalgia kick for me. So I'm really enjoying that. Basically reliving my past, and part of it, you know. And here's something I thought about, you know, when because you have a chance to actually do some musings. World of Warcraft Classic has a weird little thing where it actually allows you to have a second chance at something. Because everyone thought it was never coming back. Like, the devs made it very clear at one point that they're never going to do this specific thing, right? And when it came back, everyone's like, it's my chance to do things right. I'm not going to, you know, be stuck at level 30 for like 40, you know, like the majority of it for 6 months. So I reckon there's a lot of interesting things that comes out of it. And that idea of getting a second chance is something that most people don't get in their lives.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of curious, like, and obviously this will go to Twitch chat as well. What is your, I don't know, I'd say comfort game, but also one of your first games? Because I remember one of my first games that I've never been able to unfall out of love was the original Knights of the Old Republic, right? Like, that was...
yeah. That was a Star Wars game done right. Let's just be honest.
Yeah. Like, that is peak gaming that deserves a goddamn remaster is what that is. As we should probably pay attention to the game that hasn't been remastered in a while. Probably realize.
Well, okay, we see a Lucian, we see a Vayne, we see a Riven. All right, good to go. Let's move on.
All right, good to go. All right, give me back.
Back to Star Wars. No.
Back to nostalgia trip, dude. Come on.
I mean, let's just look at this here right now. What we've got here. This is interesting, okay? And a set as a final pickup as well. So that's definitely going to be a Riven up against a set in the top lane. I reckon that's going to be the case there. Oh, is it going to be set jungle? I want to see. No, okay, good, sweet. I was like, oh, that's definitely interesting. Now, typically, Vayne actually does really well into Lucian because one of Lucian's key damage abilities is, of course, the piercing light. Vayne has the ability to just go, lol, I Q in this direction. I just tumble in this way. So that's the thing that's really an advantage here as well. With Vayne being one of those ADCs that excels at, you know, basically stutter stepping, orb walking, doing whatever the particular word that you want to call it is to move around, makes it even harder for Thresh to actually find things. Of course, that lower range does make us susceptible to flays. So that's what Uni's really going to be looking out for. And also what 200 Years really needs to be looking out for is perhaps those flays coming through just when Vayne's nearby, because it's just instant. You don't have a chance to tumble out of it. It lines up the piercing shots. So Vayne is definitely vulnerable to that specific ability. But of course, at the same time, Blitzcrank is going to have the ability to also pull in that Lucian, and of course, Vayne can just knock Lucian straight into a wall. So it's actually quite fitting what you said before, the idea of like another ADC being able to push you into the dirt. In this case, it's going to be a Vayne pushing you into the wall. So there's definitely synergy from both of these ADCs and their respective supports coming across. We're really going to be interested to see who comes out on top. It's all going to be a chess game. Position really matters a lot in the spot lane. I reckon, and I've said it before, it's going to be explosive.
Yeah, it should be, right? You've got, as you talked about, Blitzcrank going to have to be aggro here. One of my favorite bot lanes, the Wife Steal lane.
No.
Like, I know Sen is.
I mean, it's the law. We can't. It's right, but it's like.
I know she's out of the lantern, but technically, I'm not wrong. All right, you can't. So so I remember this was like season 4.
Yeah. Sen is technically he did steal the wife. I mean, like, she's a ghost now. She's not
exactly. Like,
she's not. Not Lucian's wife. I mean, yes, she's Lucian's wife, but is she Lucian's wife? I don't know. There's a lot of lore that we have to talk about here.
She was strapped to the lantern for a while, man. But like, the Wife Steal lane is so good.
She was in quarantine for a long time.
Oh god, quarantine for like what, 6 years?
She was in lockdown for a long time.
Thresh was trying to look after it, man. Yeah. But it should be a super aggro lane. I think we could talk about set into Riven and how James in this matchup should have a bit of a better chance, or Vlad is just going to scale into a late game monster. But I feel like we have to keep our eyes on bot lane, because that's where things are just going to explode. Either Vayne is going to leave laning phase 5-0 or 0-5. it's not going to be a neutral ground, or it shouldn't be at least.
You're really hoping that's going to be the case here, and that comment doesn't come back to haunt you, because they could just be like, okay, guys, you take minions, I take minions. It's all good. It's all good, right? And I to be honest, I don't think that's going to be the case here for Melbourne High. They really do need to push the ladder, because obviously at the end of the day, yeah, Lucian's great in the late game, but Vayne is just so much better. So you really do need to put that pressure on and force something, which means we probably will have a 0-5 scenario for one of these ADCs coming up. Something that we haven't touched on here is, of course, Echo and Vladimir. Now, this is interesting. Echo, most people don't really see too much, but there is a number of challenger players that play Echo to such a high level. And what you need to do specifically with the Echo is wave shove and then roam. If you're able to do that with the, if you're able to do that, because you do have the ability with your Q, just Q out multiple times in, pull back afterwards, basically 2 Qs, you've cleared an entire minion wave. That allows you to roam very early into the game. Expect Pung Bacon to be doing that around level 5, level 6, and looking to actually force out objectives that way. Vladimir doesn't have the wave clear to catch up and keep up until roughly around level 8. So really, I'm looking on Pung to make some things happen.
Yeah, well, a lot of fun things for this matchup, guys. But we'll be going to a short, less than a minute break as we do dive into game number 2 here over at Meta HSE Victorian Grand Finals for League of Legends, where De La Salle are 1 game away from punching their next step forwards. Will Melbourne High School have enough to stop them, or will they fall by the side, guys? Don't go anywhere. Game number 2 will be beginning shortly. Game number 2 is underway, ladies and gentlemen, with De La Salle charging on to the rift here. Looking very similar to how Melbourne High School did in game number 1, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Setting up with the Blitzcrank, obviously when you're rocking the Blitzcrank you expect to invade level 1, and is this just reverse mind games where because you have the Blitzcrank and you know that you know that they know you're going to invade, so you don't invade to... I don't know, I haven't watched the Princess Bride.
Midnight, calm down. Your smoke's coming out of your ears right now, okay?
I hope, if those of you who haven't watched The Princess Bride, those of you who have know exactly what I'm referencing. Those of you who haven't, I'm not going to say you should watch it.
Just so you know, I'm a boomer because I'm laughing immediately.
Yeah, I know exactly. You know exactly what's up. It's the second greatest mistake you can make. It's the third greatest mistake you can make.
Oh god, I love how like in that scene as well, or like the scene with him just being like, "But I knew that you knew that I knew that you knew." Like,
it's such a great. I don't remember who made that movie, but it was comedy genius.
Oh yeah, it really is something that like it's just it's a number of people's favorite movies, to be honest. It's fantastic. So I think what's really interesting about that, because Alan Rickman's in it, right?
Yeah.
Is that he actually was allowed to change a number of the script as well. He made so many changes to the script, which just made his character so much more funny and just so much more like alive. So that was one of the cool things about it. Speaking of which, we can see Pung Bacon's actually definitely a lot more alive against Xanad in this match, using the Echo this time around.
Yeah, did hit that level 2 early, and speaking of that, this level 2 for Thresh Lucian needs to result in like a kill of some kind, or at least zoning off the minion wave, right? Like level 2 Thresh is ridiculously good with the... Oh my god, lands the hook onto the 200 years, who just gets nuked. Ignite is down. That might be first blood with the Ignite burning. It's not gonna be enough, but that is exactly what you need
Yeah, the pressure really coming on right off the back here. Yoon really showing us why that Thresh was banned the first time around as well. So you can see both these players making a few changes in particular things here, but of course allowing them to get those priority picks means a lot more as well. And really in a massive danger here for 200 years. No flash, no heal. Can open up the dive as well. Unfortunately, Raymond's on the other side of the map, so can't really get anything just yet. But if I was my bot lane here in this scenario for Melbourne High, I'd be calling down Raymond as fast as possible.
Say, hey, look, you've got a juicy target here, because 200 here is sitting on next to no HP, but instead, the two junglers juking it out for a scuttle bargain. I think Raymond might be in a spot of trouble here, does get it from what I saw there. No, doesn't even get the scuttle grab, and now is forced to full-on retreat. As Yosei flashes forward to dodge the parallel convergence, but unfortunately doesn't dodge death itself, as he is claimed for first blood. And, bit of an oopsies, I think that's fair to say, as Daikai might be in trouble there, stuck into a 1v2 as I said. Does have the haymaker. Will he be able to use the turnaround? Misses nice Raymond after a beautiful sidestep, and Daikai will join his jungler in death.
And when you look at everything that happened there, it all comes down to the fact that Pung Bacon had that little bit of an extra advantage on the Zenith, as you can see, as it leads. They're going for another play bot lane.
Looking good. Everyone's so Flash heal does not die. But what? I mean, we talked about this bot lane being explosive, Mendrix. This is not what I was prepared for. I am not ready for this.
I don't think anyone's ready for it as well. Even Zenith's like wondering, what do you mean you got red and blue buff right now? Did not expect the Echo to have this underneath his belt this early into the game. And of course, with 2 kills on the back of this as well, has actually buffed up that Dark Seal as well. So a lot of it's coming across here. Melbourne High looking completely different this game around. Rage Rider wants to go with Yosiki now, but minions will be playing guard. Okay, so I want to go back to that top side here. Again, I talked about how Echo typically has the wave push early against Vladimir. That's what played a critical role in them winning out in that skirmish up in that top side there. The fact that Zenith was able to actually Zenith was behind Pung Bacon. Pung Bacon came in, of course, also has that combat summoner, not the ghost as well, giving a little bit of extra oomph when it comes to these skirmishes early. That was what allowed them to really kill out against Yosiki, who is, obviously being the aggressive laner, having the better extra wave clear in turn of it. And at the same time, that blast plant from Raymond was absolutely beautiful, really divided the course of the team there for the LaSalle, and that means they were also able to pick up Daiki as well on the back foot.
And now look at the itemization that is coming through here. A pickaxe to James here. This is what they wanted in the previous matchup, but just couldn't afford to buy. The Kindle Gem sitting nicely for Raymond. Like, this is a brilliant start for the Melbourne High School boys, who really struggled to find their feet last game early on, and this could be the start of a comeback for this team, potentially, looking at how this runs. So
one of the things I was talking to you about beforehand was that they seem to have what feels like a feast or famine play style. So when they're behind, they just don't know how to turn it off. They end up giving up way more of it. That ends up exacerbating their loss and basically speeds up their loss chances or increases their chances of losing. Obviously, though, if that's the same style when they're ahead, well, you have a much different Melbourne High School that you're looking at here. So I wouldn't mind them actually using their typical playstyle when they're ahead. It's just a matter of understanding that as well. Now, Yosiki's trying to come in from behind. You can see that Raymond's here as well. So I think the idea is he's going to let him clear the way, clear that ward. Hopefully he backs off, and that means that Yosiki's able to jump on him when he comes to mid. But Raymond's going anyway. Here we go.
Yeah, Daika, though, can he buy time for it? No, doesn't even get the haymaker down and cut down immediately. Josie's like, "Go, buddy, where'd you go? You had it. Where was the grey health?" He's like, "It happens, man. Volley Bear's hungry. What's the snack?"
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he just jumped in, made sure that he wasn't able to get that shield up, and that means that, again, this lead pushing further and further in the advantage of Melbourne High. And I really look at it, I feel like Yosuke just waited a little bit too long, but even at that moment in time, I understand what they were trying to do. They're trying to bait in, use the shield to get that little bit of extra damage off, and then hopefully Yosuke will be able to actually beat out against Wee James and Raymond at the same time. Finally, we're hitting the point now where Zenith's actually able to match Pung Bacon. I don't think Raymond's going to have any chance of capturing this Vladimir. That was a very, what's the word?
Ambitious?
Ambitious, yeah. Definitely a very ambitious take there. Pung Bacon not respecting the minions as well as the Q back there. So this is going to trade out effectively. But at the end of the day, like I said, things are going to start to even out here a little bit, especially when Zenith hits around level 8. That's when really that pushing power from Echo starts to pitter out.
see how that goes. Obviously, Zanet just, I think, very happy to sort of sit in lane and let it happen, right? Obviously, Vladimir in the late game is really where he shines. Sure, he's annoying in laning phase, but late game is where he is there. Is Taikai taken down low. I think the fact that James didn't have ultimate is the only reason he gets out there in one piece. Bot lane is going about how you'd expect. A lot of skirmishing, no kills though, and I think that's what's important, right? Vayne is still just sitting in lane, farming it up.
Yeah, but the big thing here is that, yes, it's nice that Vayne hasn't died yet, but you can see that minion lead starting to edge out a little bit as time goes on. And that isn't necessarily where it's the most dangerous for Vayne. Generally, it's the most dangerous for Vayne right around, I'd say, that level 8 mark, when Lucian's completed that first item, and then it's just that so much further ahead because of that, the ability to push out with these minions, especially with the support of Thresh here as well. Raymond, though, is jumping in.
Yeah, feeling it right now, and Yosai doesn't really want to get involved in this fight here, as everyone else is piling into the fight. Yosai, though, does get out in one piece. The rest of the group disengaging. No deaths, but quite a few summoner spells burned.
He's looking for it. He gets the hook.
Ooh, could be more lantern not being used. This is just for harassment. This is just him being annoying. I love it. I love it.
Supposed to go right gets a minion. A bit of a trouble there. I think a lot of it was, hey, if you want to, you can jump on this, but Pung does have the ignite, but at the same time, Zenith still has the Hemo Plague, still has a number of abilities to relatively keep himself safe there. So you need to get the Vladimir down to about 50% before you can really look for the all-in, and I feel like at that point that I was just waiting for the next time they could come around, force it out once again. And I imagine what happened is that the rest of the team came in support, so they decided to bail out on the idea of trying to kill Vladimir at that point.
Yeah, also it's a Vladimir of all champions. It is so difficult to lock him down. The Segway pool, the Flash, the Ghost. It's ambitious to think you're going to be able to get him easily. If you can get people easily, James might be in a spot of trouble here. Dokai is pushing forward, flashes to get him in good position with the Haymaker to boot. James is going to go down here. The shield looks good, but unfortunately, Graves' shotgun simply looks better.
I really like that from Daiki as well. Just playing patient, weathering the storm, waiting for when, of course, Yosiki would come in, and then using that flash preemptively to stop Weird James from getting away. Bang Baker's using the ignite.
Yeah, going hard on the Zenith. That does drop the pool. Does have heal come too soon, and will not die from that one. Pung forced to flash there. Maybe forced to use that chrono break to boot. Is taken down low, but is able to escape with their life.
I think everything's said and done there. There is going to be a 3-man gank, not getting anything out of it, while at the same time, of course, at least getting a little bit of pressure in lane. So I think Pump Bacon will take that. Of course, at this point as well, Xana doesn't really have the ability to push out that wave that far. So I think he should be back in relatively good time. But as you can see, Pung's actually going to roll the dice on that one and remain in lane.
I'm not so sure I like that idea. Sure, you do have the chrono break and there is no CC that stops you from pressing R. But we've already seen today that your safety button, in this case Daikai's W on the set, isn't all it's always chalked up to be, right? So yeah, I'm sure that recalling, don't take that 50-50 gamble unless it's absolutely necessary. It's just lane freeze?
That's a beautiful lane freeze. I really love that there from Melbourne High School. As you can tell, that's what exactly they wanted to do, reset in the bot lane here for Dealer Salle, and they said, hey, you want to reset? You're going to lose a lot of minions in the process of this, and so they ended up doing the freeze. They're basically forcing them back and keeping them in lane. And at the same time, Raymond's beginning to path down as well. So they're really trying to catch them here before that reset. And they're trying to force it out. As you can see, they're trying to force that reset once again. I reckon they're going to keep this freeze here in the hope that they'll be able to force it out. And I think now they realize, hey, this freeze might be broken. And Raymond's now, instead of beelining to get there, is looking to clear out the jungle clear first.
Yeah, from what I saw though, I don't actually think that's broken. I think a lot of propaganda down the bot side.
I'd say it's broken now.
Oh, it is broken now. Okay, well that's unfortunate. But with Raymond here, you could just look for a flash play with a lantern. Oh no! Oh, the heartbreak. The cult of Thresh. You need to put more hours into him, man. The cult demands a lot of work. I can tell you, I've put so many hours on that champion. It is so difficult to flash play someone efficiently. You need to put a solid 100 hours on that champion to get it right. And even then, it is so easy to mess up. It is, oh man.
A lot of flash plays. Look, a good flash plays far and in between. Let's be honest in that sense of it. So at least, you know, they can tell they're still trying to do the right thing. They're trying to be proactive again. Just need to fix up that little bit of the execution. Oh, they got a catch onto.
Yeah,
oh, I don't even catch
it. But they will have a fight around there. Slam into the ball, but they have to get him down now because 200 years isn't a lot of trouble. The color coming out
flash
does take them down, but was that worthwhile? With 200 years likely going to get burnt down here. Rage throws himself into the fire here, but I'm not so sure that he's got the protection to get out. Will run for the hills there, but Raymond is lurking. There could be something, but does have the ultimate to disable the turret. Goes for it, and Red Rider says, I'm getting the hell out of here.
He's like, okay, I understand. I need to leave. I'm leaving. Okay, this is what's happening right now.
I want to go home.
Yeah, exactly. I'm scared. I really like the play of that. James also looks to be in a bit of trouble here, but I don't think he's going to get caught. Yosuke wants to go for it.
Gets a lot of damage out, but not enough. Yeah,
that was the reason. He just wants to drop the Rift Herald. It makes sense.
I mean, you did to see Raymond bot side, right? Like, why wouldn't you go top side and drop the Herald? It's the next logical step for you as a jungler.
Exactly, right? Just this is what I like. You know, that idea from De La Salle is they really do have their macro play down. And that's illustrated by the fact that they've managed to actually come back in this Goldie. I mean, look at it. It was a decent chunk ahead beforehand after those initial skirmishes, and now it's really neck to neck. $200 is the difference here. So a lot of different things. Rage Rider now coming in once again.
Bacon, you've been baited, my friend. There, even with the Chrono Break, you need to dodge this, but doesn't. Zanid is waiting for those cooldowns available though, but it will not matter. The parallel convergence, and Raymond might actually be able to turn this one around. But instead, the flash, the ghost, the get the hell out of dodge buttons all pressed by Zenith.
And definitely a dodge there by Zenith to get away as well. Also taking a bit of a minion tower shot. Very close to getting Pung. So Pung really understanding that. That's going to be a miss hook once again. So okay, let's sort of just break this down like I said beforehand. When I look at everything that's been happening here, it's just been a nice slow grind back into competitiveness this year. Oh, they're jumping across though. Whoa.
It's, I'm not so sure I like this idea, but hey, we're diving in for it. Rage is going to be the first victim of the fight, 200 years, and Yosuke, have to say, well, is it worth committing to this one? Well, the final hour has been popped as the camera decides to span its top lane. Dragon was secured by the likes of De La Salle, but they did lose their support.
And that does push the goalie back, but if De La Salle has shown us they have the ability to grind it back regardless, so I don't think that's too much of a loss. Again, the Dragon's resources are finite. Pung's so good on this Echo, continuing to just look for those trades here and there, and that's really been what's keeping them a decent advantage in this mid lane. The other thing to take into account is you can see, of course, Zen is starting to edge out in that CS, and to be honest, Echo is extremely hard to CS on. So for Pung to be continuing to put up this pressure while at the same time maintaining that CS at least at a decent spot is pretty good play.
Yeah. And yeah, it's the worry that Zanid is only going to start ramping up from here, right? Like, the first item is great for them. The second item, which I hope is the Cosmic Drive, because I love me a Cosmic Drive on Vladimir. It is disgusting. Sorry, that damage was... I forget. Sometimes I forget why I became a support main again, and then I see Set, and I remember that. That's why I left top lane. Like, that's just not allowed.
As well, I mean, look into it as well. He's like just building pretty much like HP item. I mean, okay, but to be fair, he did obviously go for the Gore Drink at first, so he's got some decent sustain on the back of that with a little bit of HP. But yeah, ooh, hook.
Going in deep, it has the Lantern, the Flay used, but no Lantern was thrown out. Unit finally uses it for a little bit of a shield as reinforcements come through from Raymond. A beautiful condemn though.
200 years is looking for it.
Mate is hungry for that bit of damage there, but. The shield block, another hook coming through Rage Rider. Oh my god, you have made up for the flash play misplay before. What a beautiful hook coming through there, and a double kill for me.
Oh no! And he's gonna fall down as anyway. Yosuke's actually gonna be able to pick this up, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. You get that. I mean, we didn't see it happen. It was off screen, but
it's cut away.
Like even the camera was like. And there was a murder that day. It just like moves away from it at such a particular point. James looking for a fight here.
Yeah, but I'm not so sure this is the one he's feeling like. But actually, never mind. He's definitely feeling it. Pops that ultimate, has that conquer already. Getting slammed into the ground, but taken down really well. Has to dodge the Haymaker if it gets thrown out now. If Pong coming in reinforced. Has to dodge it. No! Gets caught by the one ability he couldn't afford to.
Oh, ridiculous on the back of everything that's happening here. And even though, when we look at everything being said and done here, there is now a gold lead for Salle. It looked nice there, because remember, they brought 3 members and they almost lost 2 in the process of that particular fight. It ended up being a 2-for-1 trading, which I guess is advantageous. But when you're forcing that many resources across, when you're looking for these ganks and you're not finding what needs to be the most best outcome or best result for that initial gank, you can start to see things go a little bit south side on other areas of the map. Look at the gold lead on your CK rank now. 154 to 107. That's where most of this gold is being made up for now, in the side of Salle. And we have seen what Graves can do when he gets a decent thing into it. We have seen the ability of 200 years to play this vein extremely well. And now that has managed to pick up the Immortal Shield Bow as well, use it to good effect and actually remain relatively safe and alive. I'm really worried for Melbourne High School. They had a fantastic start here, but I'm not sure if they're going to be able to actually hit the landing.
Well, with the dragon spawning in, I don't have my timers up, so I should tell you.
Dragon. Oh, the dragon should be there. Yep.
I finally found the right key binding. So the dragon spawning in soon, that should instigate another fight. We both know that neither of these teams like their objectives, but 200 years gets caught by the flag, forced to flash out to safety. Double flashes burned in the bottom lane. Sorry, that is massive for the upcoming fights.
But the big thing here as well is that, of course, on that top side, Daiki's managed to come out on top and shove the lane out, and now they're bringing 5 members down for this dragon. So things definitely, especially, of course, there's going to be the teleport available for Wee James, so Wee James can use that advantage. But of course, there is still going to be roughly 4 seconds where there's going to be a bit of an advantage here for Salle, and they're jumping in. I think Yoon's been caught, maybe. Oh, Pung and Zenith fighting.
Pung and Zenith are duking it out there. Ghost being burnt. Chrono Break still available for Bacon. But he won't be gathering much alpha now. Melbourne High School have to say, well, is it worth committing to this dragon? Do we want to burn our TP for this? And it looks like no. Looks like they're giving it up.
I'm quite happy for it. Raymond's coming along here anyway. Yeah, there's no chance for them to get in there as well. Of course, on the flip side of things, of course, that means there's going to be the turret take here for Wee James, and of course, a little bit of extra minions on the back of it. But Daiki, I feel, is pretty happy to take that trade. We've seen Daiki still be able to play pretty well against Wee James, regardless of any advantages that's coming into it, and is going to go back and just push out the lane regardless. And I think it's just that idea of, hey, yeah, I lose a bit, but my team gets more.
Yeah, and I do quite like that from a top laner. Now that I'm no longer one of them, to give up to the rest of the team. You know, he walked down, he did his due diligence, lost
Dyrus effect.
The Dyrus effect, yeah. You know, I think the saving grace is he hasn't been camped to hell him back, right? Like, he actually got to play some League of Legends.
Yep, that's true, right? That is very true in that sense. I like 200 years is just kind of like, I'm just going to push this Thresh away just in case he decides to flash flame me.
Not again.
That's literally what it was. It was literally like, he can flash flame, he immediately uses the Condemn.
Yeah, it's also the risk of, you know, the setup for Raymond. We've seen Raymond arriving in the lane, courtesy of the lantern before. Doesn't want to risk getting caught. As the 2 top laners trading blows here, James is able to dodge out from the Haymaker. And now with that on cooldown, James could just look straight force a fight, right? You have, I can quickly find out, you have 11 seconds from when Daikai uses the Haymaker to kill him. And I think that James maybe could risk being a bit more aggressive in those situations.
So here's the thing you also need to take into account is that you don't know where Yoshiki is as well, and that seems to be one of the issues here for Wee James. So once Wee James gets a read on where the jungler is at that moment, that's when he can actually look to force a fight. That's something that's always playing in your back mind as well, right? Do I force this fight here, get the win, or do I perhaps give something away in the process of it? So there's a lot of calculator needs to happen when you are playing League of Legends to remain safe as the games go on. And as you can tell, Wee James is just like, you know what, I don't want to give up any more than I've already given up. Wee James is looking to jump with Zenith here, but he might be caught in return.
Okay, in the back line there, as Rage is even in the middle lane here, and a party for 3. Salle. I feel like this is a constant thing. Pung plays aggro, gets ganked. In this case, James is the one playing aggro, but still gets ganked in that middle lane. And now speaking of getting ganked, the Goon Squad comes down bot side. Thresh throws up the box. It is critical that this buys enough time here. Yoon might just be the sacrificial land here As the dodges into it, but it does do enough of a setup there. A nice play for reinforcements. Mate is going to get taken down low, but Raymond is a beast of a bear. But will it be enough for the rest of the team to pile in through? They're so low health bars, but Pong cannot get access to that backline. Actually diving in and deleting Mate and everyone else. The Hemomancer says, alright, checkmate, buddy. This is you gonna go down. Sure, you'll lose one, but I've killed 4 of you in return.
And just like that, DLSL put themselves back into the game. I really love those quick movements. They were planning that a minute ahead. As they managed to get rid of Punk, they immediately began to push most of their resources down to the ball lane to force out these ganks. There seemed to be a little bit of counterplay coming out, of course, from the other side of it, but at the end of the day, you still have a member down. Punk came into it a little bit too late, and that doesn't mean that it is going to be DLSL coming out on top once again. And Xanad played that so well, just waiting for his moment. He's been biding his time for who knows how long in this game, and when he comes in, he's able to get 3 kills off the bat. This Vladimir is well and truly in late game now.
Oh yeah, hitting those 2 items. As I said before, my favorite item on the Vladimir, that Cosmic Drive, gives you everything that you're looking for the Vlad. Cooldown reduction for the Q. Movement speed so you can actually get access to the backline on that critical flank. And of course, damage for days.
Yeah, all the damage coming across here. Now Xanad's just going to be an absolute monster. Pung is going to have to dodge that out, which he does, which is good. And I'm just trying to think now, how do they bring this back? Because they had, again, a fantastic start. I was concerned they might not be able to hit the landing. They're still relatively competitive in that gold lead here at this point in the game. I mean, it's not that much when you look at it at 24 minutes. It is looking to be roughly a 4K gold lead, but of course, once again, DLSL are just beginning to crowd out this map. They're just taking control of the Dragons, doing their due diligence, putting their warding down as they should be doing. It does need to be a pick here, probably from Yune. I'm relying on him to make something happen. Pung, I don't think he likes that spot at all.
Oh no!
Oh, he does!
Oh no, the Coconut Break doesn't get about. There's no lantern! There was no lantern for safety there. I'm sure the plan was to lantern or Chrono Break out, but unfortunately, neither worked out. And now they have traded a mid laner for a support, which is I'm not great at this game, I'll confess, but that doesn't sound like a worthwhile trade. Now Raymond is going to have to pull off something spectacular as the Dragon has been started.
Yeah, it really is a bad trade there. This is like that moment when you've come home and you've said you've traded a cow for magic beans. Raymond?
Steal? Oh no, can't get the steal. Wait, what?
Is he?
Dike, no!
Oh. He's
Raymond, run!
He's running!
Oh!
Free James is here.
That's a free there, Dike. Felt a little bit bad about the other team losing their mid lane. So like, you know what? I'll give you a free. As a beautiful hook over the wall there. Haymaker doesn't do enough. Xanad taking down low. Xanad is going to get nuked down, even with Yosiki as a reinforcement. Xanad does, in fact, get outlined. Dike did fall victim. But ironically, the only person to die from high school was Pung Bacon.
I mean, look. Everything's said and done. They've got the dragon. That's all that counts, I guess, if you're on the side of DLSL here. But that was definitely an oversight from Dike. I feel like the moment he used that ultimate, he should have gone, sorry guys, my bad. We just lost a free kill and backed away. Ended up donating another kill by trying to obviously salvage it in the end. So these are times when you literally do need to know when to fold them and when to hold them.
I don't get... Oh, right, cards. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't play cards. The only cards I know how to play are Yu-Gi-Oh!
But it's not even like, you don't need to be a card player to know that saying. That saying's been around for 50 years.
Yeah, and I'm not that boomer yet, mate. Don't worry.
That's not a boomer saying. It's been in so many like pop culture reference movies throughout the years, and it's been said. Like, have you not watched like what's it called? What's that one with Kevin Spacey with 21 in it?
You mean the movie literally called 21?
Is it 21? Yeah, 21.
It's called 21.
Right. Like every 21 movie, there's been tons of poker movies where they have that in place as well. Like, come on, man.
I don't know, man. I do not understand pop culture, all right? I am the social exile of the group. And that's your department. Your department is to be cool and hip and make tweets like...
No, it's not. I'm the color commentator. I'm supposed to be the guy analyzing, lab coat, underneath a rock, don't know what's happening around the world. You're supposed to be the one who's like, I have a Charmander, like going crazy at particular points.
I do have a Charmander, but it lives in the front of my car.
Is it like a little plush?
Yeah, it's a plushie. Yeah, it lives in the front of my car. I have a Snorlax, which is very appropriate for how much I sleep. Yeah, who'd have surprised? The turret does fall on the match there.
You gotta. Sometimes you just gotta know when to hold and when to fall at the midnight.
God damn it! Not again! Why would you do this to me? So, well, give it a second. Kong is looking to get in a little deeper than he planned. Is able to break time itself to retreat. However, good use of that option, obviously making the dive without it. But right now, Melbourne High School, they're in a better position than they were last game because they're not 10k gold at 28 minutes behind.
Yep.
But they are 4,000 gold down right
now.
Oh,
James is in trouble.
Well, might lose a bit more. James might be in a spot above it. They have to and it pulls in. The knockup comes through, but there just is not enough damage to take him down.
Could you imagine just like feeling like a ping pong? You just get condemned, and then you get pulled away, and then you get knocked into it. It's like, there's so many different things that happens when, of course, there's a blitzcrank around. I honestly feel like a ping pong ball every time I play against a blitzcrank, personally. You get pulled in, you get knocked up, you get pushed away. Rage Rider's looking to see if he can grab something again, but I don't think you want to grab any of these two guys. I feel like when you do grab them, they tend to bring a couple of people with them directly afterwards and somehow survive.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to grab the volley bear because, well, look at the volley bear. That's a tanky. You don't want to deal with that.
He's a big boy.
Oh, James, though, he doesn't have any healing cut, but he's still feeling confident against that. And that's something that's across the board. Never mind, as Yoon is getting caught.
Lost the flash.
Have to flash to get out in one piece. But what I was going to say before that is, despite Vladimir being, well, Vladimir, and Vayne having a shield bow, there's only one bit of healing cut currently available for Melbourne High School here, and that's really alarming to me because you can't easily lock down Xanit. You're not stopping him from healing, so how do you actually deal with the Vladimir?
I think the other thing to take into account is they do have 2 ignites, so that is another form of healing cut that's available. But of course, it is, a little bit. There's another hook. Oh, they're jumping on a final wreck. I think he's gone.
Rage, unfortunately, did pull themselves to death. We talked about you have to be careful what you hook in. Unfortunately, this is a fishing expedition he would rather forget.
Well, this does open up what's going to be the dragon as well. As you can see, I love the use of the culling here as well, just to force Yosuke out and says, nope, this is our dragon. You guys lose this one, and this is what we like to see as well. But they're still trying to fight it out. Xanet's going to be the guy jumping in.
And he steals it away, and now Melbourne High School forced to scatter. What a disaster there. Raven not able to secure the objective, and now De La Salle have themselves a stolen Mountain Soul.
That is absolutely tragic. You managed to get the pick first. You managed to set up well. You managed to get yourselves in there. You start up the dragon with plenty of time. Funbaker's trying to find 200 years here. Let's see how this goes out. Never mind.
Yeah,
directed cab.
The immediate chrono break back, realizing, crap, I don't win this on my own, but he's feeling it, but the shield bow's there. The stopwatch is used, but I'm not sure it's going to take 200 years flashing in forward there.
200 years?
Is hunting him down, but this Vayne is slippery, but not slippery enough.
Nah, the fists were too much. They're coming across from Raymond, so he's able to finish it in the end there. I don't think you want to get this hook just yet. As you can see, he's just took the tower out so quickly. I think things are starting to fall apart.
He's like, hey, I got backup. He's like, do you have backup though? The backup is James from behind you, but I'm not sure it's going to arrive in time. You do lose your support for the jungle. I love his posturing though. Like, he's playing like there is someone right behind him, and then Yoki's like, hold on. You're a liar. There's no one behind you.
It was just like that awkward moment, but then in the end, Yoshiki goes a bit too far. Does die as well, does trade out a good gold bounty in return for that. So overall, I'd call that a net win for Melbourne High School. When it's said and done in that specific case, that specific situation. But for the past 4 other encounters happening around the map, things have just been going absolutely the way of De La Salle. I mean, they've got that, again, they've got the Dragon Soul. We're well and truly up in gold, 4K. Again, it's not insurmountable. I thought at this point they will be competitive throughout, but of course the Mountain Soul is going to be fantastic for Daiki, fantastic for Rage, fantastic for Zenit as well. So a lot of benefits coming across there. Even pretty good for 200 years with the Immortal Shield Bow. So a number of things they're coming across here that is advantageous for the side of De La Salle having, of course, that Mountain Soul underneath their belt.
Yeah. And just for context, in case you're thinking maybe, oh, it's a Mountain Soul, it's good, but how good is it? Mountain Soul is currently providing, if I can find it on the toolbar, depending on who you are, different amounts. Now, let's look at Vayne. Obviously, Vayne,
+6 armor and magic resistance, and of course the shield that pops up.
So
yeah,
for Vayne gains a 242 health shield. Now that in itself is frustrating to deal with, because that means that's an extra probably ability or two you have to throw into her to get past that, to just get access to her health bar, and then you've got a 600 health shield from Immortal Shield Bow. That's basically 1,000 damage you have to do that doesn't hurt the Vayne.
And it all adds up. And the other thing to take into account as well is, again, you are still getting that +6% armor and magic resistance bonus as well. So your effective damage is actually being reduced. And so even though you don't really see it, you don't really feel it, it's there and it's doing work against what you want to do, especially when you've got that priority target in 200 years on that champion as well. James might be pulled. He is pulled.
Is pulled, but has the cooldown to get out alive. That's typical Riven things.
Just like, yeah, I'm just gonna start hopping, okay? What do you mean hopping? I'm just gonna start hopping, alright? She's gonna hop right on out of here.
Baron started up, there's no chance of contesting. Just look at the bottom, look at the blue side of the jungle.
No
Two
clue.
Control wards, 2 regular wards, no chance of getting in there in one thing.
No clue as well. And I think another thing that obviously put into account that probably most of their players were there was the fact that Rage Rider was there getting the hook onto James beforehand. So they understood, hey, he's putting out vision. That means just Baron's not meant for the world. And I like the fact they're not contesting that Baron. They understand, hey, you know, we still got some time to build up a bit of extra gold, get ourselves into a relatively competitive position. They definitely need to fight out against that in Elder Drake when it comes up. So I'm pretty happy with them. Oh, man, he's dead.
Yeah, and that's going to force a fight, but it might be a little bit too late with no AD carry. Melbourne High School are just lacking in the damage department, and James, the last bastion of defense, and shield bigger than his health bar, is going to fall. And that pick, I think, may just be the straw that breaks the back of Melbourne High School. They came into this game looking for revenge for their sister team, and unfortunately, it will not be the case, as De La Salle will claim victory in the grand final here over at Meta HSE for Victoria in a clean 2-0.
And what an exciting way to end it as well, because when we looked at the start of this game, it was looking so good for Melbourne High. They definitely played a hell of a lot better in their first game. I guess you could say they warmed up on the initial sort of first game shakes that tends to happen from time to time as well. But De La Salle, just too strong, able to grind it out in the right ways, hold and buy their time, and then with decent macro and good skirmishes around that 12 to 15 minute mark, start to right that control, start to wring that control back into their hands. And because they were able to do that, as you can see, they're coming out 10k gold lead, of course, all these dragons in hand as well. They really do know how to play a clean game of League of Legends.
Yeah, it looked great for them, even in the situation where, especially, I must say I'm most impressed by De La Salle, not in game 1, but in game 2, right? They started behind. They started 3k gold behind at like 5 minutes into the game, and they managed to recover the gold. And then they started building the gold. And that is a talent that so many teams, even on the professional level, they have no idea how to play from behind.
Yep.
And De La Salle said, look, we know how to do it. We know that, hey, we don't have to take fights whenever they're available. We know we have to get some farm onto our Vayne, onto our Vladimir. We scale, great. Let's not play this recklessly. And that level of discipline is just phenomenal to see. Because of course, they've got more games to play. They've advanced they passed Victoria, but they've got the other states they now have to start dealing with before the states grand final later in the year, I believe.
Yes, exactly. And I really do want to take into account as well that idea of what you were talking about where you say, hey, it's very hard to find a team that knows how to play from behind. I know for a fact there are a lot of professional teams or teams in that, semi-professional league that once they see they're in a losing match against certain players or certain scrims, they just cut the game out, reset, let's go again. Let's do that first 15 minutes. They don't even want to worry about what's going to happen after 15 minutes because a lot of teams know that you can just win in the first 15. So a lot of them not having that ability to learn how to play from behind can start to hurt them, especially in those big competition games. So having that underneath their belt already for De La Salle is a real big asset and hopefully something they can take into possibly what's going to be developing League of Legends careers.
Yeah, it'll be very exciting to see. Of course, guys, don't run away just yet. We do have a player interview with one of the members of De La Salle waiting in the wings, guys. So obviously we do have that coming for you. But before we do get to that, of course, I do want to remind you guys that our sponsor, Billy Blue College of Design at Torrens University, has got a competition going on, which is a PAX VIP experience for 2 and an online session with a professional League of Legends player or streamer from the Legacy Esports team. There will be an entry form in the Twitch chat. And of course, all you got to do is fill that in. I'm pretty sure I can just put that in myself. Yeah, there we go. Just put that in myself. Fill that in. Get involved. Why not, right? Like, what's the harm in all of that?
Well, might as well give it a shot. Hey, you got to be in it to win it. And really, when you've got no investment, why wouldn't you put it in there? Let's be honest. Like it's really good opportunities. Hell, I would put my name into it if I wasn't allowed to. Okay, let's just be honest here.
Are we allowed? I have no idea if we're allowed to.
No, no way.
Not good posture.
No way. No way we're allowed. No way we're allowed to. Absolutely. Could you imagine we put on and like, what are you doing? You're the commentator. What's happening here? Nah, we're not. We're not allowed.
Yes.
If we would put it in, okay, tell you what. We're allowed to put it in, but there's no way we'd win that competition.
Yeah,
let me just put it out there. I reckon that would be a scenario.
I have got news that the player we are interviewing from De La Salle is going to be Yo Suke.
Yeah.
Jungler coming in there now. Obviously, it's going to be quite exciting to see how they're going. Obviously, there's quite a few things we do want to ask them coming in. And I think the big thing for me, right, is I've been casting meta for, 2, 3, I think you've been in the same, about 2, 3 years now, give take?
Yep.
Like, the next stage is the most interesting for me. Because this is where I've seen some teams perform better than what they do in the regular state finals area.
Yep.
And then I can't remember the school's name for the life of me, unfortunately, but I remember this one team came in really, really strong on paper. The moment they hit these high pressure, high stress games, everything fell apart. Their solo laners, their drafting just went completely everywhere. Their solo laners really struggled to go toe for toe. Their bot lane, which was what I remember their strongest point, just sort of phased out of reality. They were still there, but they were exiting laning phase, maybe 1-1 as opposed to the 5-0, which is what their dominance was. And for a team like De La Salle, that has looked really, really good in just the state matches, I wonder if that pressure is going to start to get to them.
It's definitely possible. And I think a big thing we need to take into account here is that these bigger high pressure situations are definitely a lot of learning points for these players, not just as teams but as individuals. A lot of them haven't actually had that experience to be under a high pressure situation, bar for what would be school exams. Let's be perfectly honest with that. So it makes sense that sometimes these players get to these points and they just don't have the mettle yet to do it. That's the big key point here, is that they don't have it yet. And so once they have that, that first real shock experience underneath their belt, the next time they come into it, the next time they have something similar, they've had that shock factor before. They know how to deal with it, and we should see a different performance. So hopefully for De La Salle, they do, I want them to come in there full, wind underneath their sails, and they just start sailing, flying, whatever you want to call about it. But at the end of the day, if there's someone that's not ready or prepared for this, it's going to be a bit of a shock treatment, but still probably going to be a fantastic experience, and again, a good learning experience nonetheless.
Yeah, you got to know how to deal with pressure. Sometimes it just be like that. But before we do go into our interview of our jungler here from De La Salle, we do have to look at the MVP coming through for this best of 3 grand finals. And surprise, surprise, Xanad is going to be claiming that moniker there. Their performances in both games was brilliant. Honestly, the Vladimir, the fact that you could never keep that champion down in game number 2 specifically, I think is just a boon to the team, right? Like, because what can you do against a Vladimir that when you try and kill him says no and then just sinks into the floor like an introvert at a social gathering? And then the moment that you're like, well, crap, I want to leave, then it exits the floor like an introvert and says, no, you're not. Sorry. Like,
could you imagine? That's like, do you want to come to the party? No. Okay.
I wish I could.
Do you want to? No. Just no. Okay. No worries, Zenit. That's okay. Like it's literally that scenario. That's literally what Vladimir, to be honest. I'm not saying that's what Zenit's like, but I'm saying that's the case. And it makes sense. I mean, at the end of the game, 5-0-4 again, unkilled. Amazing versatility to play a champion like Vladimir and then a champion like Cannon as well. Auto attack focus versus ability focus, cooldown focus, right? That's really amazing from Zenit. So really appreciate it. Definitely worthy of that MVP.
Yeah, but we do have to drag away from Zenit because obviously there is another player waiting in the wings. And this one isn't the mid laner, unfortunately not the MVP, but it is going to be the jungler here of De La Salle. Welcome. Oh, God, I'm going to completely mess up the pronunciation.
You're going to have to say the name right this time, aren't you?
Oh, man, you believe me. Welcome, Yosuke. Please tell me I've been saying that right all day. Please tell me I've at least got that right.
It's close. It's Yojosuke.
Yojosuke.
It's close. It's close. It's close.
Oh, man. I tried my best. All right, well, welcome, mate. Obviously, congratulations on the grand final victory here over at the Victorian Finals. A very impressive 2-0 series coming through. I want to start on game number 2 because obviously game number 1, it started strong and finished strong for you guys. Game number 2, things didn't exactly start according to plan, I'm willing to bet. Was there a moment of like, oh crap, we might actually lose this match early on?
Well, yes and no in a way, because we chose a comp that was going to scale for the second game, as we had Graves, we had Vayne, we had Vlad, and we just rushed it too early. We decided, oh, we got to do ganks, we got to do this. But then as soon as we realized, we just wait. We just dragged the game on. Me and Zanid, we just kept farming. We just ended up steamrolling the game.
Yeah, so, that was something I really didn't take into account. You ended on 319 and 199. That is farming up a storm. When you do those clears and those jungle clears, that's something that is you've actively thought out. Are you passing, or you just, hey, I've done this so many times on Graves, it's just second nature. I know how to path perfectly.
That is pretty much it with Graves. I've been playing Graves a lot. That's why the first game when I didn't get it, I was a little bit disappointed, but Hecarim obviously did the job much better. But when I get on Graves, it's a lot about looking where the jungler is and where I can farm, where I can invade.
Yeah, it definitely came out big there as well. I love that, the sense of it. How did you guys, like you said, you guys wanted to like really take into account that idea of, hey, we're just going to scale and pull it back. What's the mentality? What's the communications like with the team? How do you guys say that from time to time?
Well, as soon as we messed up the gank top, we were 3-0 down, I think at the start. We said, all right, everyone, just chill, take a break. We told our support, just get vision and just sit there and farm. Like there was not much more than that.
Too easy. No, Midnight, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, I was like the turtle strategy, man. It never ceases to fail when you realize, hey, we've made a few errors in the early game. Let's not do that again. Obviously, you guys have taken down Melbourne High School twice now, technically speaking, in the semi-finals before, and now again in the grand finals. How's the experience been participating in the league? Has it been, stressful? Has it been times where you're thinking, oh crap, I need to practice for this, or is it much more a chill and relaxed approach from you in this team?
Well, it's definitely, like, I could say it's both in a way, because we got into this like before last year we were in the Div 2 scene and we managed to win that. And then this year we came into it like, oh, now it's Div 1. We got to make sure we practice a lot more. And then once we got to that first game, we were like, wait, this is a lot more mellow than we thought. We don't have to try that hard. Not try that hard. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but you don't have to like sacrifice school time for this. You can just play it on like a chill level. And once we figured out that, we became a lot more comfortable. We went into every game a little bit nervous, but once we got into it, the flow of things, it ended up being really good and really fun, especially. After every game, we always had something to talk about. At school, it was really good because all the teachers loved it. We got a lot of recognition for it too. And now at De La Salle, esports is becoming something big. 2-3 years ago, I had like 5 players in it, which was myself and a few other people on the team. But now we've managed to get over maybe 300 members.
Wow.
Ooh, that is Awesome.
That's excellent. That's insane.
That segues perfectly into my next question, which was going to be, what's the support been like from the school and the teachers? I know some schools have like their own, they literally set up like a gaming room. I can't remember which, I think it's like Melbourne High School like has a room for their meta team to practice in, and they have like a teacher serving as a coach. Like, is that the same level of support you guys get over at De La Salle?
Not quite yet, but hopefully this win might bring something along like that.
Yeah.
Because we've definitely made a name for ourselves, and I'm sure our school will be very, very proud of us. But in terms of actual gaming rooms, since it hasn't been that long since esports has really blown up, because it's only this year, we've kind of just jumped onto meta, tried finding other tournaments to go into, and just tried to include people. Because the more people we get, the more support we get.
Absolutely. I really like that standard of things of, being inclusive, and it really shows with the tremendous growth in your school, like 300 people coming across. So yeah, your school doesn't have has a lot more to be proud of than just your performances, just as well how you guys take the approach to game and life, to be honest.
And I suppose one final question before we let you go and celebrate your victory with the rest of your team here. Obviously, with this win does mean that there is still another step to go, right? You have to deal with the winners in the other states. Now,
yes,
I'm not going to ask if you've scouted them out already, aka did you think you were going to win this match before you entered it? Because that's a little bit BM. But how confident are you and the rest of the team feeling looking at your future matches against the strongest teams that the other states have to offer?
Well, we're definitely feeling good about it. Don't get me wrong. We've had a look at some of the finals. We saw it. We're like, okay, not standard, but we've had a look and we've been like, okay, there's not much different in gameplay. We definitely can put up a challenge. It's not like we're going to be stomped or they're going to be stomped. I reckon each game that we play in nationals is definitely going to be a good game.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much for this quick chat. And of course, you're free to go now. You can go celebrate with the rest of your teams. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing how you and the rest of De La Salle go when you guys butt heads with the other states.
Thank you very much for having me on here. I'll see you guys.
Absolute pleasure, mate. And with that note, guys, of course, that will be the Meta HSE League of Legends Victorian Grand Finals wrapped up for today. But the day is but a young one. I think that's what they're saying.
Is it? I hope it is.
Look, right, idiot. As there is still plenty more Meta HSE action lurking in the wings. Rocket League for the for the WA region will be kicking off at 2 p.m. So in about 2 hours, give or take. And do not forget that the Victorian Valorant games are still waiting in the wings in about 6 hours' time. So there is plenty more to be excited for. But unfortunately, Mendrix, for you and I, that is it for now. As, of course, League of Legends has done its run. And that is a wrap for you and I.
Absolutely. But I had an absolute blast. And it's so good to hear the stories of all we've managed to do as well. So really glad to see fantastic performance here from De La Salle and a very valiant effort as well from Melbourne High School as well. You guys did put out an amazing amount of work. So please do not discount that. I can't wait to see what you guys can do next year.
Yeah, Melbourne High School's always been a strong competitor. Every year they are somewhere lurking in the finals of each state. Sorry, each state of the Victorian state. And I look very forward to seeing what they can do in the future. But on that note, guys, one final thanks to our sponsors of Torrens University, Optus, and MSI. If you're into gaming esports, make sure to learn about their game design, game programming, 3D design, animation, graphics, and communication design courses. Take a poke around that one. But on that note, guys, thank you very much for joining us for the Meta HSE Victorian Grand Finals, where, of course, we did see De La Salle win in a dominant 2-0 fashion. Take care of yourselves out there, and we'll see you later.